Is turn fast, go left. Good afternoon, everyone. My thanks to AFGC and to those in particular who put this event together for this opportunity. I enjoy talking about this kind of thing. Mine is a story of grazing lands reclamation and restoration. It's a story that needs to be, and I believe can be, repeated on millions of acres in this great country of ours. The problem is to try and tell the 21-year story of how we did it at home in 15 minutes, but we're going to give it a try. So tighten your cinch, sink your feet deep in the stirrup, pull your cover down, and here we go. Shiloh Land and Cattle Company, a place where I like to think of it as a place where our most precious resource, humankind's most precious resource, the very land, the soil, comes together with another resource, the cattle, to produce a human edible, nutritious food that also very much pleases the palate. Over our 130 acres of solar panel lying on the Ozark Plateau in southwest Missouri, Lawrence County, we have just 127 acres of cool season grass. There's some of everything there, but predominantly tall fescue, some annual and perennial bluegrass, some now volunteer ryegrass, although it was once seeded, and a little bit of red and ladino clover scattered in. Wooded areas are few and small, few along the perimeter of the farm and also on the 40 lines of the interior. We have very heavy soil, with limestone rocks adding greatly to its weight. I must say there's probably 60% of our farm that if I go to stick a tread-in post in the ground, I'll hit a rock about 40% of the time on that 60% of the farm. Years prior to our existence, or our presence, I mean, the land was row cropped, and when the worn out plows and discs got thrown into the hedgerows, it was returned back to grass. And at that time, it was Kentucky 31. Tall fescue, and the land continued to suffer on the particular farm that we purchased. He had rolled up the hay each year and hauled it off to another farm for feeding, and the land literally was mined. Upon our arrival in '93, initial soil tests revealed we had organic matter barely over 3%, pH of 5.0, phosphate 7, and potash at 130. Sulfur and magnesium were almost non-existent. The magnesium-calcium ratio was entirely out of balance. And shortly after we arrived, 50 cow-calf pairs, about 3 weeks after we arrived, 50 cow-calf pairs did likewise. Cows of every possible color, every possible size and shape you can imagine, commodity cattle. And so the past 21 years have been a learning experience, yeah, an implementation of a lot of protocols and technologies, all aimed at optimizing the production of quality forage while maximizing the utilization of it. Now, there's a picture of our grazing cell from the air. The first thing we did was to install about 5 miles of high tensile fencing and a little over a mile of 1.5-inch PVC to run water out to it. Water fountains installed in the centers of the 3 40s, making each 40 a standalone grazing cell, if you will. A 16-foot lane connected those 40s to what we call jail, the 5,500-foot corral that we built that year. And I should also mention we had a house and a couple of sheds to put up that year as well. I want to emphasize we graze vegetative forage from their eye down to their nose. 40-day rest periods depending upon moisture and conditions. We'll graze a piece of grass a lot of times 5 or 6 times a year. We might graze it 4 or 5 times and hay it once or twice. Jim Garish told me once many years ago that with high-density grazing, intensive management grazing will cover your farm with pasture, or with manure, I mean, about every 7 years. Well, folks, I'm a pretty happy guy. I just celebrated our 3rd cow pie covering. I must be a mushroom, huh? At any rate, for those of, in samples. Now, in 2013, we pulled grid samples on a 2.5 acre grid, organic matter at 4.33% with a standard deviation of 0.89. Now, I suspect there might be some of you in here who, like me, fraught with anxiety after walking out of your statistics final, intentionally repressed any kind of memory, including what standard deviation meant. But what that really means for those of you who, like me, did that, is that almost 70% of our pastures now have got organic matter between 3.5 and 5.25%. This means that the top 6 inches of my pasture is holding 13,000 gallons or more water per acre that it used to let leach away on a significant rain event that would now be there for the plant. That's a 1/2 inch of rainfall on my whole farm with every significant rain event. And it's building every year. Just think of how much more happy those soil critters and soil microbes must be. Now, my wallet had to come out of my pocket a number of times for soil amendments, all of the fertilizers, a little bit of trace with zinc, some sulfur, and a lot of lime. And we grid sampled back in '01 and applied by GPS guided applications at that time. GPS applications with a couple spreadings of poultry litter have now put our plant food levels at optimal across the whole farm. Using polywire and tread-in posts, we soon learned, or I should say we soon implemented polywire and tread-in posts because we found on that grazing cell that you saw a little earlier, we had 5 acre paddocks 8 times on a 40. We had at that time 50, 55 cows. And each day I'd go out and watch, and what I saw happening, having put the cows into that 5 acre piece, there was enough grass there for clearly 5 or 6 days. And some of you have seen this, I know. You get out there on about day 3 and they meet you at the fountain bellowing, vociferously demanding another piece of grass. Because in 3 days they've fouled and peed on and pooped on every other grass out there that they ain't ate yet. And they want a new patch. And so we ended up tearing out the wires and going back to open pieces, 10, 20, 30, and even 40 acres. We have 140 that's not interrupted at all by wire except for the lane. And moving the fence each day with a device you see in this picture, the tumble wheel. It is really nothing more or nothing less than a rolling fence post. But it makes moving the wire each day to giving them just what they will clean up, or twice a day, makes it a simple project of about 10 minutes. Now, as initial forage increased from a little over 1.5 ton to the acre, we found we had more grass in the spring than we could utilize. Of course, that should have happened, and it did. So we began to hire a custom operator to make some of our winter supply of hay. Continuing forage production increases gave us even more product to be made into hay, and that, along with a custom operator promising to be there by May 10 and showing up sometime after June 20, drove me crazy. Crazy enough, in fact, to buy some steel. And so, when the grass ahead of the cows begins to get mature, I'll take the cows back to where it's vegetative, stop there with the cows and take the hay cutter, the disc bind there forward, and trying to keep the place vegetative. Crazy to own equipment, but yet, for our operation at least, it was necessary to manage it. By this time, we were seeing yields of 8,500 to 7,500, 8,500 per acre, and we had the herd up to 70 cows. We were backgrounding our calves, our own calves, for 60 days, plus raising 10 or 12 heifers. We do not creep feed our calves. but we do, upon weaning, begin giving them a 16% commercial pellet that they get at about 4 or 5 pounds until they're sold. We wean in April, sell in June. The heifers will get 3 to 4 pounds of that same product from June until November when they're bred. That is a shot of some of our calves, and you're looking at 21 years of AI. Our calves do well, but on the heifers who stay when these kids go, they'll get grain, like I said, up until breeding, but that's the last that a female on our place will get in her lifetime, unless I manage to make some really poor quality hay, and then I may have to supplement that cow a little bit. Over the and mineral. We do keep mineral in front of all animals at all times, and it's a custom-made mineral that I have blended to augment my mineral content in my forages, and I might mention too the traces in it, the zinc, manganese, and copper, are all chelated or organic. At any rate, synchronized AI breeding was put in place in '94. I said we wanted quality cattle, or reputation cattle. Each Thanksgiving, we crossbreed our Angus-sired females to black-polled Simi, and Simi-sired females back to Angus, just a simple two-way cross. We put tailhead markers on in 2 weeks after the fixed-time AI. We start looking for this, and a red tailhead marker means we got a repeat breeder. So we do one repeat round of AI, and a cleanup bull is then put in from Christmas to January. Moving to fall calving made life a lot simpler as well. Typically, at March preg check, we will have 1, 2, or maybe even as many as 3 cows open, 10 or 12 bred by the bull, and the rest, 57 or 58 cows, will be pregnant from AI. And over the past several years, we've sent 15 to 20% of our steer calves to the Tri-County Steer Carcass Futurity, a feed out in southwest Iowa to see how they do. Our calves will average, and they have. We've sent 100 calves now, and including the earlier year ones, this is an average daily gain of 3.9 to 4.1. Choice between 70 and 80%. Yield grades 1 and 2 between 80 and 85%. Out of 100 calves, we've never had an out or a dark cutter. Now, on the subject of grass, specifically endophyte infected, toxic Kentucky 31. In short, we don't have any. That is, not anymore, we don't. We did, and I could go on for an hour or more on the woes and financial losses that we endured as a result of fescue toxicosis. But we tried every way known to mitigate the nasty effects of the ergovaline, and that every way at least except to abandon our AI program, thus giving up the rapid AI or rapid genetic progress we so passionately sought. We did reduce fescue foot some. We didn't eliminate it. We did not eliminate the on-scene effects of marginal weight gains lost. And in 2001, having thoroughly researched the novel endophyte technology and what it had done in New Zealand and what it had done in trials here, we began to kill our Kentucky 31, 5, 10, 20 acres a year, and convert to novel. Meanwhile, after 2009 rolled along, we were completed to conversion on our own place. We still had 16 acres of rented ground. I talked to the landlord, and in 2013, that's that same heifer post-mortem. They don't live like that. But anyway, talked to the landlord. He told me he wasn't apt to take the land back for a couple, 3 years at least, maybe longer. And I went ahead and killed the fescue on it and put sorghum sedan out there for a summer smother crop. And today it's in beautiful fescue. I spent $200 an acre on that land. If I had hired the work done, it would have been that. And my records tell me that I'll have my money back by this summer. A quick word and final word on my records. I keep grazing records on a spreadsheet, Each year is a standalone file, and I have them for 21 years. I didn't intend you'd be able to see the numbers, but just the idea that there's a record. I keep record of how many animals on what piece of the farm, and also keep track of the hay that is made, and at the end of whatever period you want to look, in this case it's a year, it adds or converts the hay made into cow days per acre and lets me see what the production was around the farm. Our cattle records are kept on Access database. Databases work with, I keep weather records too. Can't do much about weather, but you can record it. Our cattle records are kept on database, and databases work with your data entered into tables, and then you can draw reports from those tables. And is it sweet? This is our cow table. We keep 29 data points on each cow. That would be everything from her UID and her date of birth, her dam, her sire, grandsire, great-grandsire, when she freshened last, how many days was she open, when was she bred, when will she calve, virgin pelvic and reproductive tract score, virgin weight, adult weight, all of that on each cow. Now the calf table is a little different, a little longer actually, 33 data points. His number, his maternal and paternal lineage, his date of birth, his birth weight, adjusted weight, weaning weight, the whole bit. And the beauty of this is that I can pull any kind of a report. For instance, this is a report that ranks my cows by their weaning weight and how many calves have they weaned. This is a list, just basically an inventory. If the banker wants to know what you got, I can just hand him the sheet. This is a bull rank. Every bull that's ever been used on the place, AI or natural service, and what his weaning weight of his progeny was, and it ranks them for me. And the feedlot performance. Who graded choice, who graded select, and so forth. And finally, this annual performance summary that encapsulates my conception, my weaning percentage, and my 205 weights. Folks, the old adage is true. You cannot manage it if you don't first measure it. Every decision I've made in implementing practices over the last 21 years, everything you've heard me talking about in the last, I'm afraid, 16 minutes, has been made based upon my records. I probably spend an average of an hour a week making them, and I really think probably over the course of a year, average 4 or 5 hours a week looking at them, learning from them. So I like to say measure it, manage it, and monetize it. Thank you for being so kind and listen. There's my contact info if anybody cares to get with me a question later. Sir.
Have time for a few questions real quick. You might have a question. Yes.
No, the tumble wheel is a commercial product on the market from one of the down under fence supply companies. And first time I had one, brought one home, neighbor looked at it, he said, would you buy a new TV antenna? They're mainly aluminum with a plastic hub, and they come in a box. They're usually 5 in a box, and a dealer isn't going to want to inventory them, so you're going to have to, he's going to probably make you buy a whole box of 5 at about $70 a piece today. But I've got a couple dozen of them, and I wouldn't want to be without them.
So where do we get them at?
Farm stores with orange flags outside. I don't want to make this a commercial. Regrettably, Gallagher is the only company that, great company, they're the only one that make them.
You have another question back here?
Yes?
Just one more question about the tumblers. How do you think they would work in a taller grass situation?
Have I been able to work in what?
Would they work in a taller grass situation?
In taller grass.
Tougher,
I'm sorry, I'm,
Like a broad grass or something like that, or millet? Have
a warm season? Only when converting to novel endophyte. And ma'am, if I was a typical spring or spring and fall calving operator, I would have probably 20-25% of my farm in warm season grasses. But I'm a fall calver only. So in the spring is when I need my maximum forage production, because mom was gestating. Babies are out now being big kids, eating a lot more. And in the summer, once the calves are gone and it's just a bunch of dry cows, when my production is at a low ebb, so is my need. Sir,
How would the wheel work in a taller grass?
how would what work?
Your wheel.
Oh, I probably wouldn't work with a hoot.
Any other questions? One more, right?
Yes, sir.
Shouldn't you mow your grass that's got away from you, and instead now, you possession of the state, did you go back and bale, or just left it lay on the field?
Oh, no. No, the question is if grass gets ahead of me and I have to mow it, do I leave it there or do I roll it up? I roll it up. I don't leave anything out there unless it's been turned to manure already.
Let's give Darrel Anita.
Thank you.